Hello everyone, glad to be back. Today is 21st of March, now it's 15 past 12, middle of the day by Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my channel in which I share latest updates on the news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. There is quite a few very significant developments and news that I like to share with you for this moment. But before I start, let me once again emphasize how grateful I am for your time, attention and support. It really does mean a lot to me, so thank you very much. That being said, let's talk about news now, and I will start with the Ukrainian special military operation. First news that I like to share with you is about statement that head of PMC Wagner, Yevgeny Prigozhin, made yesterday afternoon. So according to him, up to 70% of Artyomovsk, which is Bakhmut, is under Russian control. Now, if you are regularly watching my updates, probably you're familiar with this information because I did report about it quite a few days ago, that 70%, up to 70% of this town is under Russian control. But now we have confirmation from Prigozhin himself, and he probably knows better than many how situation is developing on the ground, because mainly it's PMC Wagner units that are conducting offensive operations in and around this town. So let me show you Bakhmut on the maps. So yes, that's Bakhmut. This is Chisov, and yesterday I did see comments in the comment section with questions why Russian side did slow down in last days, why they did not encircled entirely Bakhmut, or why they did not establish full control over the city. First of all, we have confirmation that 70% of this town is under Russian control. Let me use this another map also. And secondly, that's Bakhmut, by the way. And this is Chisov here. So as you know, internet is blown up by this news about inevitability of large-scale counteroffensive from Zelensky's regime for last few days now. More than that, even last week, entire week, all the media outlets were talking about this announced counteroffensive from Zelensky's regime to deblockade Bakhmut and to encircle PMC Wagner units. And probably, even though me personally never believed in this information, and I was saying from very beginning that it looks like it is some kind of deception operation from Zelensky's regime and Western masters of Zelensky's regime. Still, because it's a real battlefield, of course, PMC Wagner units had to be more cautious. And I believe last few days they were reinforcing their positions that they already established inside the city and in surrounding areas, just in case if Zelensky's regime will truly conduct any counteroffensive operations. But now, when so many days has passed and there is no counteroffensive, PMC Wagner units will probably become more active again. And I believe, for example, that today or tomorrow they will establish full control over these southern parts of Bakhmut. As you can see, small local cauldrons are formed here, and it's only a matter of hours, maybe a couple of days, and this territory will be under Russian control. But when it comes to establishing control over the Bakhmut, full control over the Bakhmut, we should take in account that in Bakhmut right now, Bakhmut garnison is counting about at least 3,000 to 5,000 soldiers. And even though, in my opinion, Bakhmut garnison has collapsed already, all these 3,000 to 5,000 soldiers, and that's at least, because some reports are saying that Ukrainian side has in Bakhmut 8,000 to 10,000 soldiers and even more. And yes, Bakhmut garnison is collapsed. In my reading of this picture, they are demoralized. They are they are broken basically, and are unable to conduct any effective and successful counteroffensive operations or defensive operations. They still are armed. And to neutralize so many soldiers of opposite side, PMC Wagner units will need some time. It's not easy task for any military structure, isn't it? So that's why it does take some time, but eventually it's it's matter of coming days, and Bakhmut will be under full Russian control. Yes, we have some reports that some small units of Bakhmut garrison are trying to flee town in disorganized manner, but look at this terrain here. This map is quite useful to show you terrain. So just look at this. All these country roads that go through these small settlements here are broken. They are kind of rivers of mud, and they are under Russian artillery control. This is Krasnoye, for example, settlement right next to Bakhmut. And then there are fields. Fields that are almost impossible to cross by any vehicles. So that's why so many videos are popping up on Telegram channels with destroyed Ukrainian columns all around this area. But yet again, when it comes to this announced large-scale counteroffensive from Zelensky's regime, I was quite sure that there will be no counteroffensive, and I'm still remaining on this position. First of all, it's illogical. That's why I think that there will be no counteroffensive, because some reports are saying that Zelensky's regime is pulling out forces from Kramatorsk-Slaviansk defense line to use them to conduct counteroffensive in Bakhmut direction, which is crazy even for Zelensky's regime, because Kramatorsk-Slaviansk defense line, which is here, that's Kramatorsk town and that's Slaviansk. So this defense line is the weakest one from all the defense lines that were built since 2014. So Zelensky's regime will reinforce these defense lines, but definitely will not pull out any troops from there to move in direction of Bakhmut. Same time, as I said many times before, Zelensky's regime has some huge problems with manpower. And right now on the front line, at least 4 to 5 hot points that need constant reinforcement. I'm talking about Zelensky's regime. Zelensky's regime had to reinforce constantly at least 4 to 5 hot points. And let me be more detailed here. First of all, it's Kupiansk direction here. Yesterday I did share information that Zelensky's regime is sending in Kupiansk mercenaries because they don't have manpower available in armed forces, in Ukrainian armed forces. So that's why they are sending in Kupiansk mercenaries. Then it's Krasny Liman and Seversk direction. Also quite active place on the front line. They need to be reinforced. Their Ukrainian positions had to be reinforced all the time, constantly. Then we have Bakhmut direction. And we also have, let me use this map now. And then we also have Avdiivka direction, which is, as I was predicting for quite a few weeks now, which has become under Russian operational encirclement in previous days. And yesterday, Russian side was quite successful in offensive operations in the direction of Avdiivka. Same time, Donetsk direction is in general very active, and Zelensky's regime have to send more and more reserves in these directions to somehow keep the line. And then Avdiivka has becoming a hot point again, and forward units of Russian side are now so close to Ugledar city itself that to destroy positions of Ukrainian armed forces, they are using anti-tank guided missiles systems. And those systems are working around 1 to 3 kilometers distances. So I believe forward units of Russian armed forces are around here. This is Dachi area. So probably distance between the Russian and the Ukrainian forces in Avdiivka is about few hundred meters, kilometer maybe, like 1,500 meters. So this is also a hot point, and because Russian side is very actively using artillery and aviation in direction of Ugledar, and I did share many times these videos, how Ukrainian positions were destroyed by aviation, Russian aviation or artillery. Zelensky's regime has to reinforce Ugledar direction constantly on daily basis. And in this situation, you tell me how Zelensky and his henchmen gonna find additional forces to conduct counteroffensive in direction of Bakhmut. There is no forces left. They can remove, only option they have to remove brigades from Belarusian border. They do have up to 20,000 soldiers in direction of Belarusian border, but they cannot remove them from there, because then this direction will become wide open. So as I said, man, Ukrainian armed forces are on the brink of breakdown, entire armed forces, not just in Bakhmut or in Ugledar, for example, but Ugledar or Avdiivka. Entire Ukrainian armed forces are on the verge of breakdown, and there will be no counteroffensives. No, there will be no large-scale counteroffensives from Zelensky's regime. They cannot conduct any large-scale counteroffensive operations. They don't have manpower for this, and they don't have equipment for this. And I think not just in, I think Zelensky's regime will be unable to conduct counteroffensive, large-scale counteroffensive, not just in direction of Bakhmut, but Zelensky's regime will be unable to conduct large-scale counteroffensive even in Zaporozhye direction. No matter how hard Washington and London will push Zelensky to conduct counteroffensive in Zaporozhye direction to cut this land bridge between Crimea and mainland Russia, they just don't have enough forces. Yes, they will try. Zelensky is a puppet of Washington, isn't it? So he has order to conduct counteroffensive in Zaporozhye direction, and he will use all the reserves that they have in Zaporozhye direction to conduct such counteroffensive, but that will be probably last nail in Zelensky's coffin. Political nail, let's say this way, because units that are still loyal to Zelensky will be destroyed in if they will try to cut this land bridge. It will be total devastation for Ukrainian armed forces, and then it will be obvious. It will become obvious for everyone that Ukrainian armed forces have breakdown and are unable anymore to conduct any successful operation in any direction. For me, it's clear right now, but then everyone will realize it. So this is when it comes to frontline, when it comes to Bakhmut. So just wait, guys. It only takes a day or two, and once PMC Wagner unit will make sure that Zelensky's regime is not conducting any large-scale counteroffensive. Local scale, some movements can happen. That's usual stuff on the front lines. But there will be no large-scale counteroffensive from Zelensky's regime in Bakhmut direction. And once it will become absolutely clear for PMC Wagner units, they will restart offensive operations. And before end of next week, not just Bakhmut, but probably Chisov Yar also will become under full encirclement. Right now, Chisov Yar, in my opinion, is in some kind of operational encirclement because all the roads from Chisov Yar are under Russian fire control. But it will take a week or two, and Chisov Yar will end up in a similar situation that Bakhmut is right now. When Bakhmut, just look at the map. Even this pro-Ukrainian map is enough to understand that Bakhmut is encircled. So this is when it comes to front line. Let's go and see some other news now. And this is RIA Novosti's report about yesterday's drone strike that Zelensky's regime conducted on Crimea, on the town of Jankoy. As I understand, civilian drones were used to conduct this strike. Civilian drones were equipped with explosive materials. Russian air defense systems did shut down those drones, but fragments of those drones and explosives did hit some civilian areas, unfortunately, and some damage was done. But according to head of Crimea region, Sergei Aksyonov, situation is under full control in Jankoy. One citizen was injured during this attack, and local government did everything to make sure that citizens will receive all the necessary assistance from medics. So yes, that's the situation. But yet again, this kind of strikes from Zelensky's regime confirms my prediction, for example, that Zelensky's regime will use any opportunity to strike deep inside Russian territory. Any opportunity, and when Western elites will deliver to Zelensky long-range weapons, they will definitely use those weapons to do as much harm to civilians deep inside Russia as they can, because they cannot harm Russian army. They cannot defeat Russian army. They can try, but they cannot. But they can harm civilians, and that's what they do, because they have nothing, not even a drop of dignity. I'm talking about Zelensky and his criminal henchmen. So let's continue now. And next news is about Xi Jinping's meeting with Putin. He had meeting with Putin yesterday. He did spoke with Russian Prime Minister today. I mean Xi Jinping. So yesterday's meeting with Putin was a 4.5 hour long. They did have some topics to talk about, isn't it? If you take in account what is going on in the world and how Western elites are acting, how irresponsibly Western elites are acting. So they did talk about 4.5 hours. After meeting, they made statements, and statements were like usual stuff. They did notice how good relationships between the two countries are, and of course they did say that these relationships will develop in the even more in the coming years. Nothing special, as I said. I did not expect that they will make some huge statements. In my opinion, big statements will be made by high-ranking officials of China and Russia when this visit will end, after some time, let's say after a week or two. And first of all, I'm expecting that Chinese and Russian officials will openly say that China is beginning to support Russia with military equipment. I'm expecting this kind of statement, but not from Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin, because they don't have to make such statements. It would be too undiplomatic or too aggressive. And as we know, both leaders are trying to represent themselves as calm as possible. So when it comes to these kind of statements about weapons and the rest of it, there will be some high-ranking officials who will deal with this issue. So, of course, one of the topics that Xi Jinping and Putin did talk is about peace between Russia and Ukraine. As you know, quite some time ago, Beijing came up with the peace initiative, let's say this way, with 12 points. And Putin and Xi Jinping discussed this issue yesterday, and we have statement from Russian Foreign Ministry. This statement is from today, according to which there cannot be any negotiations between Russia side and Ukrainian side if with participation of USA, United Kingdom, France, or Germany. You probably straight away did see reasoning for this. Probably you remember Minsk 1 and Minsk 2 agreements, and of course we all know that leadership of France and Germany, for example, openly did said that they use this agreement, Minsk 1 and Minsk 2 agreement, to gain some time for Ukrainian Nazis, to prepare them to conduct some terroristic actions against Donbass and against Russia. So, of course, there is no reasoning for Moscow to trust leadership of France, Germany, United Kingdom, and USA. They cannot be trusted, definitely, especially when it comes to peace negotiations. So that's the official statement from Russian Foreign Ministry. And to be honest, I believe that when this conflict will end, negotiations from Ukrainian side will be done not by Zelensky and his henchmen, but probably by some militaries that are very much not happy what has happened to their country because of the West and Western puppets in Ukrainian government right now. So I do believe we will see some military coup in Ukraine, not right now, but in before end of this year, for sure. And the militaries will represent Ukraine on negotiations. That's how this conflict will end, probably. So let's continue. This is RIA Novosti. Here. Yes, this information is about, I just spoke about it, that meeting between Putin and Xi Jinping was 4.5 hours, because they did have many topics to talk about. So next news is yes, also about Xi Jinping's visit. As I mentioned, both sides spoke about necessity to increase cooperation between the sides, and Xi Jinping made statement that it was strategic choice of China, of Beijing, to establish with Russia as close relationships, as friendly relationships as possible. And in ordinary, so I do understand this statement from Xi Jinping in a way that it's obvious that for China, Russia has critical meaning, critical importance, and first of all, because in attempt to create multipolar world, China needs assistance, not just from Russia, but also from India, also from countries in Middle East, in Latin America, Brazil, Argentina are leaders of that continent. Also from Africa, South African Republic is a great example of success, even though they're experiencing some issues, but it's a leading country in the continent. So Russia is also one of the main players in this field of creating multipolar world, and that's why it's important. It has importance for China, but same time, Russia is one of the major energy supplier for China, and energy is critical stuff for economy. Just look at the Europe right now. They decide, European elites decide to cut off Russian energy supplies, direct energy supplies, and what is happening in Europe? Prices are rising. Inflation is in digit numbers in most of the European states. Manufacturing plants are looking for a new place, especially in the North America. So nothing good has happened to Europe. Once European elites did start this anti-Russian xenophobic campaign, and for China, Russian energy supplies are even more critical. Because Chinese economy is just, you cannot compare Chinese economy with economies of Germany or France or Italy. It's just too huge. So yes, I do understand this statement from Xi Jinping, and both sides should do as much as possible to make sure that Western elites will not be able to divide sides, to provoke any divisions between the sides. So let's continue now, and if I may, I will use 1 minute to promote my channel. If you think this channel is interesting, if you think this channel is useful, has some potential and deserves to exist in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support with small donations through PayPal, or subscribe to my Patreon page. You will see links under this video in the description box. Of course, I will be very grateful for your help. Let's continue with the news now, and this is RIA Novosti's report. Let me see how long is this video. 27 minutes. Okay, I will go through headlines at least, and yes, I will try to make this video shorter than yesterday. So this is RIA Novosti's report about two US B-52 bombers that was intercepted by Russian Su-35 fighter jet over the Baltic Sea. As you know, recently US have become quite active in the direction of Baltic Sea. They even conducted some maneuvers with use of B-52s to simulate nuclear strike on St. Petersburg. Well, what we can say? Constant escalation from the Western elites truly are bringing all of us closer to much bigger conflict than we are seeing now in Ukraine. But yet again, Russian side can only defend itself. And Russian side is ready. As I understand, Russian side did see what is happening and preparing itself, not just for defense but also for offense. And I hope there is at least a few adequate people in Washington and in Pentagon that understand that if they provoke direct conflict between Russia and USA, there will be no winners in that conflict, because current leaders in Europe, for example, definitely don't understand that they cannot defeat Russia. And the Biden White House probably also don't understand that they cannot defeat Russia. It's just impossible. Russia is a nuclear powerhouse, and Russian military doctrine clearly said if statehood under danger, or if citizens are under danger, Russian government not just able but have to use all means necessary for defensive to defend statehood and citizens. And when it comes to all means necessary, that includes nuclear weapons also. So I hope at least in Pentagon there are some few adequate generals that understand how dangerous it is that this constant escalation by Western sides. And this stuff, man, just recently we see incident with the drone that went down over the Black Sea. I don't want to see another accident when not just drone but some manned planes of US or other NATO member states will go down. I just don't want to see this kind of development because it's too dangerous for all of us, for humankind. But yet again, Russia has to do what Russia has to do. You know, it's not Russia that sends its armed forces in Mexico close to US borders. It's US that are sending its military personnel and equipment towards Russian borders, isn't it? So let's continue now, and this is RIA Novosti's report about new military aid package from USA to Zelensky's Nazi regime, and this time this package is $350 million. Probably you will notice that numbers are not as high as it used to be. We are not talking about billions, at least for now, but still 350 million is quite enough money to deal with some issues that US citizens have on their daily lives. But you know, do Biden White House cares about US citizens? I don't think so. You know. So US will send some ammunition for HIMARS and also Bradley armored personnel carriers in this $350 million package, some other military equipment, but yet again, of course, this don't change critically anything on the battlefield, but this kind of moves from White House shows how disgraceful Biden and his administration truly are. So let's continue now. This is RIA Novosti, and we have a statement from Putin. This is quite an interesting statement because, as you know, a few days ago, Russian side did prolong grain deal for 60 days. There are some different information circulating on at least Telegram channels that a grain deal cannot be prolonged for 60 days because in the additional or in the main agreement it's 120 days that are mentioned, but Russian side did repeat itself quite a few times, Russian officials, that Russian side agreed to prolong this deal only for 60 days, and if issues won't be resolved in terms of this grain deal, and as you know, right now Russia is unable to export its goods, its agriculture goods, when Ukrainian side is exporting not just grain but basically everything they want. They are using this road to export whatever they want, and if Russia will be unsatisfied after 60 days, I suppose grain deal won't be prolonged. And in that case, Putin said that if Russia will not prolong this grain deal, then Russia will deliver grain for African nations that are in need for free. That's a statement that Putin made. And this is important. This is important because, of course, West will, if Russia will not prolong this grain deal, West will use this as a propaganda tool. Then they will say that Russia is not helping countries that are in need, and you can imagine picture, isn't it? But we have now statement from Putin that if grain deal won't be prolonged, then Russia will deliver grain for free for African countries that are in need. And now Western elites have lost opportunity to use this grain deal against Russia in propaganda if grain deal won't be prolonged. Let's continue now. This is RBK news agency is reporting that Russia has become a leader between major oil suppliers to China. It's for many years now. It's basically two main suppliers of oil for China is Saudi Arabia and Russia. And since the beginning of 2023, Russia is delivering to China more crude oil than Saudi Arabia. It's quite understandable. Russian oil is a little bit cheaper than oil from Saudis. And of course it's business, so China buys more oil when price is more comfortable. Yet again, that's one more reason that China sees Russia as and relationships with Russia as a strategic interest for China because of energy. And yesterday we had information that Russia become a major supplier of gas. Also today we have information that Russia is the number one oil supplier to China. So relationships between China and Russia truly are developing in a good way. I hope same time relationships will also develop in much rapid pace between Russia and India, because that's a strategic interest of Russia and also India. Just to make sure that everyone in this company of three, let's say China, India, Russia, is comfortable. China and India and Russia can balance China, or at least try. So yes, but when it comes to relationships between Moscow and Beijing, everything looks quite optimistic, at least for this moment. And this is RIA Novosti's report about decision that Turkey made about shutting down Turkish territory to re-export in Russia all the goods that are under sanctions of the West. We did have this kind of information like a week ago. I did share it with you, but then some sources did report that information was, false. But it seems like information was correct because just look at it. This is RIA Novosti reporting, one of the major news agencies in Russia. So yes, Turkey is banning re-export in Russia of all the goods that are under Western sanctions, but there is exception. Goods production that are produced in Turkey with details from the other countries. That product, those goods can be exported to Russia. So Ankara is trying to make some clever moves here. They want to invite some investments in Turkey from Russia, for example, so that there can be some manufacturing plants built in Turkey. And if any product that Russia wants is produced in Turkey but are banned by Western elites or under sanctions of Western elites, those goods can be exported in Russia. Turkey will not have a problem with it. So, quite a dodgy move, let's be honest, by Turkish side. Not the friendly move, because after all, Turkey is not part of anti-Russian sanctions, at least before now. But it seems like West is pushing too hard on Erdogan. And yes, that's decisions that they are making. Anyway, Russia has quite a few routes to receive all the goods that is necessary for Russian economy. Turkey is only one of them. And probably if this decision of Ankara will damage Russian interests, then Moscow will be forced to react accordingly. And Turkey not just will not see Russian investments, but Turkey will also lose. Turkey will also lose Russian market, for example, and this is quite crucial for Turkey. So Ankara should be very careful when it comes to relationships with Russia. Let's continue now, and this is RT is reporting that Russian Bank of Russia, that's Bank of Russia, made decisions that Russian banks will not be. So banks have been ordered to use the country's domestic financial messaging system for transactions, not the SWIFT. So now Russia is banning SWIFT. Ironic, isn't it? It's quite ironic that Russia now is banning SWIFT. So yes, it was many experts were saying that SWIFT is making a crucial mistake by putting sanctions over the Russian financial institutions, because it's simple true. Now Russia is developing alternative financial messaging systems, and Russia is actively using Chinese alternative, for example, and Russia on its own has alternatives. So who lost? Yes, for now, of course, it's problematic. I mean, Swiss did damage ordinary Russian citizens. For example, if you want to donate to this channel, you cannot do it directly to me because I live in Russia. So that's why my PayPal for me was made outside of Russia, and all your donations basically going to Georgia, and then from Georgia to Russia. And that's example of damage that was done by SWIFT when they put sanctions on Russian financial institutions. But yet again, this is example. This is a good example of effectiveness of sanctions. Sanctions are not effective against elites. Sanctions are effective against ordinary citizens only, because elites don't really care, isn't it? But yet again, Western elites, I mean, come on, man, you cannot. They have no drop of dignity, Western elites. And they put so many sanctions on Russia exactly to harm Russian citizens, because they know very well they cannot harm Russian elites. So yes, this is gonna be last news. This is gonna be last news for today. I hope you'll find this update interesting, and if so, please consider to subscribe if you are new. According to YouTube analytics, more than 30%, up to 40% of viewers are not subscribed. So please consider to subscribe if you are new, and if you find to all the subscribers, if you find my videos interesting, please hit that like button, leave some commentary about any topic you like. If you can, please share links to my videos with your friends on Twitter, Facebook, Telegram, or any other platform that you are active on. And if you want, and if you can, there is a way to support my channel with small donations through PayPal, or by subscribing on my Patreon page. You will see links under this video in the description box. This is it for now. Have a nice day and take care.